All right, I would like to call to order the Monday, April 15th, 2024 meeting of the Monona City Council. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Alder DePula.
Here.
Alder Holmquist.
Here.
Alder Moore.
Here.
Alder Wood.
Here.
Alder Rademacher.
Here.
Alder Bernstein.
Here.
Mayor O'Connor.
Here. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right, is there a motion to approve the minutes of the April 1st meeting?
So moved. Second.
Any questions or additions, corrections? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. There are no appearances. There is no public hearing. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Consent agenda is approved. There is no unfinished business under new business. Item 2A, consideration of resolution 24-4-2702, authorizing beer sales by Parks and Recreation staff during 2024 special events. This is put forth by the Parks and Recreation Board. Is Director Anderson there?
I believe he is, Mayor.
I think so.
I think he is. Jake, if we are asking for an explanation of why things are being requested for immediate action before we vote on that, if you could explain.
For the beer sales in the park is mainly just because it's an annual vote from this council. Our first one starts the first Wednesday in May, so it's a little bit of timing with this meeting and the next meeting,
Okay.
just to line up staff and publicity.
Okay. Is there a motion?
Sorry, I couldn't hear you before. It wasn't going on a Zoom.
Oh, okay. Well, given that, is there a motion to take this out of order?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is there a motion to approve it?
Move to approve.
Second.
Jake, would you like to explain a little bit about the resolution?
Sure. So this is maybe 6-7 years now we've been offering beer sales in parks for events. This gives us flexibility for dates and times at different locations. We will certainly be having 3 beer gardens in May, having some beer sales at Grand Crossing Park for events that we're doing, and for some of our larger events like the Fall Festival. City staff is trained and certified in the Surf Safe program, and the revenue is in our recreation budget, revenue and expense.
Anyone have any questions for Jake? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thanks, Jake. Next
you.
item 2B, consideration of resolution 24-4-2704, approving the purchase of a 2025 Pierce pumper put forth by the fire chief. Jerry.
Good evening. I would actually request that we take this out of order as well. This is a time-sensitive payment. The reason it's $358 over what was budgeted in the capital budget is we had planned on an April 1st payment date. So I had originally requested to put this on as a single read. If we wait another 2 weeks, it'll be slightly higher than what the dollar amount is now. So I would respectfully ask for a single read on this. I didn't see the agenda until today, otherwise I would have requested it beforehand.
Is there a motion to take this out of order?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Is there a motion to
Okay.
approve?
Motion to approve. Second.
Okay, Chief, you want to explain a little bit about
Yes.
it, or?
Thank you very much, first of all, for taking it out of order. So this was the capital purchase approved in the 2024 budget. We ordered this, believe in either October or November of last year due to the lengthy lead times on this. The option to prepay saves us about $19,000 in interest money and allows us to, again, spread out the capital budget on the fire side a little bit more equally between years. The original budget for this was $800,000. We've brought it down over the last couple of years. Biggest reason for that is a lot of hard work from our apparatus committee. They put in close to 200 hours of work poring over the bids and figuring out the best equipment at the best price for the city. If we had gone the traditional custom chassis, which our current engine is and our current ladder, it would have added about another $150,000 to the cost of the engine. But in return, we went with the commercial chassis. They're more readily available and they're cheaper to build. So all told, the $624,000 is pretty competitive in today's apparatus marketplace. And all that credit goes to our apparatus committee. They did a fabulous job. I had no part in it other than approving what they forwarded to me for bringing to you folks. I did include in the packet a drawing of the engine so you can take a look at it and see what tax dollars are buying. It looks quite a bit different than our current engines. And I also included the apparatus schedule so you can see where it falls within the overall apparatus fleet guidelines over the next 15 years or so. Other than that, I am more than happy to take any questions you may have. But again, I just want to thank my apparatus committee. They volunteered a lot of hours into this, and I'm very happy with the result of it.
Anybody have any questions? Nancy?
Yeah, Chief, I know that this is in the capital budget, obviously, and looks like a beautiful engine and a pumper. And I know it says here that the current pumper is 2004. Is that right?
Correct.
And can just for general sake, do you have a sense of what kind of mileage we have on that, or what kind of repair costs we've had on the current one?
The repair costs on the 04 have gone up. There was a lot of deferred maintenance that we took care of over the last 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
I have a sense we're at this point, due to the fact that the council and the mayor approved this purchase, we're putting off fixing some of the minor stuff that doesn't affect usability.
Sure.
Because we know we have a new one. We have a new one coming. Example of that is the arrow stick in the back for traffic guidance is no longer working. We've determined it to be a wiring problem, and for them to fix it would be about $2,000.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not essential for me to fix it right now. So we're trying to limit the maintenance costs on the current 2004, knowing we have a new one coming in about 18 months.
True. And so when do you expect delivery on this new one?
November of 25.
Anything else? Okay, would the clerk please call the roll?
Alder Holmquist,
Aye.
Alder Moore,
Aye.
Alder Wood,
Aye.
Alder Rademacher,
Aye.
Alder Bernstein,
Aye.
Alder DePula.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you all, I appreciate it.
Next, item C, consideration of resolution 24-4-2703, award of contract for 2024 street resurfacing and water tower driveway improvements projects put forth by the Public Works Director. Dan.
Thank you, Mayor. In front of you, you have the packet for the bid award that we took bids on April 11th last week. We received bids from 3 contractors, and Wolf Paving and Excavating provided the low bid for $289,062. We've worked with Wolf Paving on a number of projects in the past few years, and there have been no issues with them in the past, so we expect a good project with them moving forward this year. Tonight is the first reading for this bid award. We're taking it to the Public Works Committee meeting on May 1st, and then back here on May 6th for the second reading here at Council. We've lumped a few projects in with this bid. We also included the mill and overlay that we typically do every year. Along with the mill and overlay, we have sanitary sewer manhole adjustments and water valve adjustments. And we're going to wrap up the Tecumseh Bridge end wall project that we did last year. We have to redo some bridge approaches that were associated with that project. So we have that amount in here as well. When this project is done, the Tecumseh Bridge approach will be closed out. That was a 2023 project. The remaining balances that we have on the water tower project, the remaining portion of it, we intend to use. And then we also have just under $100,000 for street maintenance that I'm hoping to use this year yet as well. So look for that in the future. We are going to be doing about 7 streets here in Monona for the mill and overlay. In the packet, I've also included a diagram of the water tower driveway improvements that we're going to do. It involves rebuilding the driveway bed, going up the hill, new asphalt. It'll be shaped to allow for better drainage for wintertime runoff and rain events. And then at the very top, we're going to switch over to a new and upgraded gravel driveway with a few parking areas at each water tower. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Rick?
I noticed on one of the drawings that some trees are going to be removed. But when I was walking up the driveway earlier today, looks like 3 trees have been removed. So has that already been done?
I'm not sure if it's been done yet. I'd have to look at the bid line here. I'm not sure if it's in there, but from what I was told is that they were dead or near dead, so they would be removed.
Was it just the 3 trees?
Just the 3, yeah.
Okay.
The hash line that you see there, that's the shouldering work that's there now. A lot of it's growing over with weeds and whatnot. But the asphalt print is pretty much going to stay in its current footprint.
And is there an easement between the road and that large retaining wall? A private easement of some sort, so that they can get to some of the plumbing that's behind the wall?
Which wall are you referring to? The one that is?
The water tower building has a large retaining wall, or I guess it's...
Oh, the water tower plaza.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know, maybe it's not called a retaining wall.
The end of that, I believe that's the property line. So we pretty much plan to just stick to our side of it.
Okay, because I noticed that there were some utilities on that side of the wall that probably belong to them.
There are several utilities that are run up to the water tower plaza. I know they have a generator up on top as well for their structure.
Okay.
I'm guessing the majority of the utilities go underneath our driveway up to the back end. There's a number of fiber lines, gas line, power line, water main. I was telling the finance committee that basically the entire width of that driveway is full of underground infrastructure, so we have to be very careful with it, so.
Yeah, it's kind of, there's a lot going on there.
Very busy, yeah.
And I noticed one of the park paths crossed that, the roadway on top of the hill.
Okay.
Anything special to be considered there?
The driveway will go all the way back to the second tower, so if there's a path that's there, that utilize the gravel driveway if they have to cross.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Doug?
So Wolf Paving is gonna do all 4 of these? Is that right?
Yes. Yep,
For $289 and change?
that's correct.
So we still will have, so it'll be just $4,600 in work on the Tecumseh Bridge approach, and that project's done?
The remaining work, correct.
So it'll have a balance?
That will have a balance,
Okay, good.
yep. I believe the way the finance director handles that, with all the balances that remain at the end of the year, that I guess works into the equation for next year's capital borrowing. So we would borrow less, in essence, next year.
Great.
Anyone else? Okay, Dan, we'll move on to your next item. Consideration of ordinance 4-24-775, repealing and recreating chapter 381 of the Code of Ordinances regarding solid waste and recyclables collection, put forth by the Public Works Director.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. This was a big rewrite. It's a complete overhaul of the solid waste and recycling ordinance code. In the packet, I believe I included the major points of the update of the code, and then as well as the completely rewritten ordinance. The city attorney did review this. We incorporated his comments into this. We have templates from the DNR. The entire recycling section is based on the state template for recycling for the curbside programs. There have been some things that were not changed, such as the leaf collection and brush collection program, but they are in this ordinance. I would like to go through that major points of note, things that stand out. If you have other questions, either on what I explained or other items in here, I'd be more than happy to answer them. So I guess to start out, in section 381-3, paragraph D1, the collection time is still 7 a.m. Throughout the city and 6:30 a.m. in the areas of the school. That is by the current code to allow for trash and recycle collection for the areas that the students park. So that was carried over. 381-3-D7 is an anti-scavenging. This is pretty common in all municipal codes here in Wisconsin for garbage and recycling. It's unlawful unless authorized by the city. So basically, once it's at the curb, it becomes the property of the city or the contractor because they in essence paid for this material. Paragraph D8, the contractor has a right to reject any solid waste if it contains recyclables or materials banned from Wisconsin landfills. I don't know if they do pre-dump inspections, but I know their trucks have cameras on the carts as they raise them. If the lids are open, they have the ability to see inside and they record all of this. So they can reject it. Our code will allow that. The biggest change that we have, and this is, I implemented it based on the state template for recycling, and I also reviewed about 35 other municipal ordinances of cities our size across Wisconsin. And there's pretty much, I think, only one or two that have something different than what I'm proposing, but our old code allowed for multifamily units from 5 to 8. This code is rewritten to go up to 4 units, which is pretty standard across Wisconsin. The impact of that currently in our program is 7 properties. And based on our current 2025 budget impact for the prices we already have, that's about $635. So we get some budget relief, but we also clean up our code and we also provide the service to basically match what's happening across Wisconsin. With that, if you all approve that change, I'd like to recommend that we keep those parcels in our program until January 1st of 2025. I would notify them as soon as possible after we vote on this to let them know the change and so they can properly plan for them taking on a private contract in 2025. 381-3, paragraph F. I know Alder Moore and I have had some conversations in the past. I wrote into this draft that private collection for businesses, schools, the multiple family units, the larger complexes, cannot occur until 6:30 a.m. Right now, there's not an identified time because it doesn't impact, the dumping doesn't impact the decibel levels, which is in our code, in a different part of the code. So to be uniform for all the businesses, I wrote in here 6:30 a.m. And I'd like to ask this council if they want to consider changing our residential program to match that 6:30. So right now our program starts at 7, except for the areas in the by the high school. I don't need that tonight, but maybe something to think about until we come back on May 6th. Section 381-4, it's the mandatory recycling. This is based off the template from the state. We were inspected in the fall of 2023. Our program is operating pretty good. They did recommend we update our code because the last time it was done was 2012. And since then, they've come out with a recycling template. So we incorporated that into this change. 381-4, paragraph G, similar to above. We are moving on from units of 5 to 8 and focusing on multiple family units of 1 through 4. Single-family homes, duplexes, and small complexes up to 4 units. Paragraph L, requirements for all establishments to recycle according to materials listed. Now, we're talking all properties. They're required to offer containers for recycle collection, and they're required to notify tenants of recycling requirements and provide education to reduce and recycle. This has always been in the code, but it's more pronounced with the state template. And we sort of touched on this with the next item on the agenda with the compliance assurance plan. In my time here, I have had to reach out to only one large complex. This was after COVID. I believe they stopped offering recycling to their tenants, which violates state statute. So we had to follow all the steps with notification. I had to contact the DNR. We had the support of the DNR with the property manager at this location. They now have recycling once again for all their tenants. Paragraph N, it's the enforcement and inspection component of this. Authorized staff will inspect solid waste and recyclable containers throughout the city to ensure compliance. On the inspection that we had in the fall, they would like us to go out throughout the year, randomly pick residential carts, business dumpsters, and things like that, and record what we see, and then report that on an annual basis. So that is something that will be starting. We plan to do it on a quarterly basis, but this year just spells out the enforcement and inspection component to it. It would be the code enforcement officer and myself or the public works designee that would conduct that. Section 381-7 are non-disposable items. There are a list of items that are not collected in the curbside program or the bulk items program. The disposer shall seek out a proper way to dispose of these items according to federal and state law. 381-8. Likewise, this is the Sharps program and the medication disposal. Pelletieri does not accept those, and the medication is controlled by the state. So we ask them to check out specified areas or locations for disposal of that. And then section 381-12 is the fees and citations amount outlined in general penalty. We are not changing anything as part of the fee schedule. So in a nutshell, these are the main items that you should know of in this ordinance update, but if there's any questions on anything, I'll give it a shot and answer your questions.
Anyone have any questions for Dan? Brian?
The multifamily locations that have 5 to 8 units right now, are they having individual carts for each of those units?
No, those would be like the ones on Anthony Place. There's 5 units behind American Family on Monona Drive. They're dumpsters. So it would just be a transition from, if they choose to go with Pelletieri or any other provider of their choice, but it would be just a swap out of dumpsters.
And maybe this is naive of me. We've issued carts to individual residents. Have we issued carts or to 4 units or less than?
It all depends on the available space they have. There have been some property owners where, let's say it's a 4-plex, and they didn't want to pay the rental fee for the cart when the program was established, so they only have 2 carts there, two garbage and 2 recycle. On Beldy, there's a number of places that have carts instead of dumpsters because they don't have the proper quota for a garbage truck and dumpsters. But the majority of these 7 are on Anthony Place. They're 8-unit apartment complexes, and they have dumpsters.
And so who paid for the dumpsters? Because for the carts, they got rolled in, and it's not like I pay a rental fee on my carts.
It's built into our program, the pricing is. So in an 8-plex, they charge us for 8 units.
Okay.
So 8 units of recycle and 8 units of garbage. If it's a 5-plex,
Even though it's a single tip of a trash
Yes.
Okay, I think that helps me understand.
Yes.
Anyone else? Any questions for Dan? Doug?
On the sharps disposal, currently, if you need that, you can put it in the trash, or no?
No, Pelletier does not accept it, so.
Before Pelletier,
I don't believe Advanced Disposal had that in their acceptance. I'm not sure about Waste Management. So,
Usually that's no, usually Lids Cares do not accept those. It has to be
okay.
yeah.
disposed of either at a pharmacy or a healthcare facility.
Right.
Usually.
So that should not be, that won't be a change for
No,
most people?
Correct.
No.
Okay.
But we outlined the Sharps program and the medication disposal for sure, because it just is, it's another way of helping people find a way to dispose of at least the medication. We refer them to pages on the DNR webpage. I would have liked to have provided an address, but pages change. So, however long we have our ordinance in place before we change that page on the DNR site might change. So this is the best that we can do with directing people.
Anyone else? Alderman?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm, and I realize that there's not any major change here, but as it relates to yard waste, I know it's always a major challenge when I go over with my yard waste, because people are co-mingling where they're not supposed to be over at Public Works, and frequently not only is it commingled, but it's overflowing. Like there's no place to put it because it's overflowing. So I'm just wondering, I mean, I'm not seeing, our yards are not getting any smaller by code. We're not splitting up lots, we're not getting smaller lots, and it just seems, and our trees aren't getting any younger, so I'm just wondering if Public Works has given any more thought to what we might do for that, because like I said, the
Absolutely.
leaf area is
It all depends how willing you
frequently
are.
overflowing on there, and the other areas, yeah, it's just.
It all depends how willing you are to get rid of the dog park.
How willing I am what?
To get rid of the dog park.
To get rid of the dog park.
Absolutely. Because the time will come soon. We talk about an operating budget referendum that will soon be put to the voters, but if it doesn't pass, we're going to be looking for areas to trim. The brush program is a big cost for the city. Drop-off will be even more important. But as you noted, we don't have any room with those bins down there. I know when Mayor Bob was here and the council at that time, they fully understood that, yes, if Public Works ever needed that property for a program, it's the city's property, but it's a Public Works property. But having a larger drop-off center, there was a diagram done years ago before I even arrived, where they were thinking about it back then already. So that would be where we would expand. It'd have to be certified by the state. It'd have to be inspected annually. We'd have to report the tonnages and things like that. But so if we want a fully functional yard waste site, that would have to be the location. I can't think of any other place to put it.
And do we pay extra fees because because it's commingled? I mean, you guys can't sit there and sort it out.
When you say commingled, what are you speaking of?
Well, I'm talking about people throwing their brush in with their leaves, as an example.
The small amounts of branches, if they're less than 3 feet, they can go in there, because that will get mixed up at Purple Cow.
Okay.
The larger branches, we don't put in there. There should be no garbage in there. We do have cameras that monitor it for when we do get illegal dumping. We do get people reporting to us when they've seen someone else dump.
Okay.
If we get license plates, we have PD follow up with them. They actually To avoid a citation, PD makes them come back down and remove their items.
Sure.
If they fail to do that, then they get cited. So we do the best we can with monitoring it,
Sure.
but, you know, it's yard waste, leaves, small branches, things like that. That's acceptable. That'll be broken down. So,
You don't want whole trees and
No.
root balls
No.
and things like that.
Root balls typically go to the landfill because there's no other way to
Mhm.
deal with them.
Yeah.
So,
Teresa?
Dan, are you continuing on this topic, and you mentioned license plates, are you inferring that there's a camera that's capturing license plates as people are coming in and out of there?
I'd have to confer with Jeff on this, but I believe there's an angle that we can capture.
Sure.
Right? We can capture a vehicle for sure.
Yeah, and is that how you know whether a driver whether people are coming in from outside the city of Monona?
No, we don't. We don't have that ability. The cameras were put up actually because we would get tires, washers, dryers, things like that were dropped off in front of the gate,
Okay,
and we've never accepted that stuff. So as Wally was building the camera program in the PD, we slowly added in the front as well, so we could try and capture those people who are illegally disposing
Yeah.
of those items.
so really it's just a suspicion that folks from outside Monona are possibly bringing yard waste in. We don't really have proof
We
of
don't
it.
have proof, but
Sure.
I'm thinking if we do have that, it's probably gonna be from the areas north of Fenright,
Yeah,
if that,
Yeah.
so,
that's true.
yeah.
I did have a question about the proposed changes to the pickup time.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering what is the issue there that's trying to be solved by this change, and what are the benefits to the solution?
Are you referring to the overall collection time in the city that includes like schools and private business, or are you talking over program, the residential program?
I guess I'm talking about both of them.
Okay,
Yeah,
in the past, Alderman Moore, please help out if need be, but we've had some complaints that come in around the Monona Drive area, one just off Nichols, where I'm not really quite sure of the time, 5:30, where the trucks would come in and begin their dumping. And the neighbors would complain, and we really can't do anything about it because it doesn't meet the decibel level.
sure,
And nowhere else in the code does it cover a time for collection.
okay.
So that's why I put in here as the first crack at it, let's put 6:30, because 6:30 is common in most of the ordinances I've read for city collections. That seems to be most tolerable. Monona has 7. I think we're an outlier on that. 6:30 is the most common. So that's why I leave it up to the city council. If you want to make our residential program 6:30 to match the rest of the city that I'm proposing, but I think at a minimum, we at least should establish a start collection time for the private businesses and schools and things like that, just so there's something that's uniform. And if council passes that, I will notify all the collectors that I'm aware of that collect in Monona via certified letter. So,
I would just say, since my name has been invoked, that I've also received complaints about even a 7 a.m. pickup in the residential areas
Being too early.
being too early. So I have to say I am a little bit worried about the 6:30
Yeah,
in the residential areas, but I certainly understand the reasoning, and I certainly, the reverse of that, since that's when my name is invoked, I understand where Dan's coming from.
sorry to bring you into this, but
Yeah, I know.
I know
It's
we've had
fine.
conversations.
It's fine.
it's all your fault, Nancy.
Doug?
Well, I actually, my neighbor had complained at one time about the time they were picking up at the library.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I guess that leads to my question. If we made it 6:30 for businesses and schools and such, that would be 6:30 for a city pickup as well?
Well, no, right now it's written as 7.
I think for the city facilities.
Like library?
Like the
Right
library.
now, right, the city facilities, even though they're under our residential program, they collect them on a commercial schedule.
Right.
So, I mean, we could get technical and say, hey, you can't pick those up until 7 because they're part of the residential program, but they have them under their commercial schedule.
Right, yeah.
So, but I think establishing at least 6:30 for the commercial is an improvement, because right now, they could
Right,
come in
oh,
at
yeah.
5 o'clock,
Right.
so,
Well, they could.
yeah.
Mm.
When our general noise ordinances, do they start at 7? Does that
I
make
think it's
right?
9 PM to 7 AM,
To 7
but it's
a.m.?
decibel level based.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And that's where we couldn't really do anything about it, because it measures below the limit identified in the code.
Aren't there, I want to say there are restrictions on starting construction work before 7 AM?
Correct.
So,
Right, for the same
Same reason.
right.
thing.
I guess I would be inclined to leave it at 7 for the residential, but I don't
I'm,
feel real strong.
I'm
about it.
completely fine with that. I was just
Yeah.
asking if you all have a preference, so.
I guess I'm wondering what would be the downside of it? Just leave it at 7?
I really don't think there's a downside. Pelletier is used to coming here at 7.
Okay, yeah,
For
it's
the,
just that it would be more uniform for everything.
Right.
If you moved it to
Right.
6:30 as well.
sure.
right.
I guess where I was thinking was maybe like a large dumpster collection at an apartment building, which would be very noisy.
Yeah. Some of the larger ones, I think, have, 2 dumpsters for each.
Yeah,
If they're like, if it's a 16 unit, they just don't have a small 8 yard. I think they've got multiple dumpsters, so that could be a problem there once you're dumping multiple dumpsters. I mean, that, on an empty truck, usually at 5 AM, 5:30, the truck is empty and it echoes.
yes,
So,
yeah.
And that would be 6:30, right?
then it would be, now if you pass it this way, it'd be 6.
Right, but right now, there's no time.
Right.
So,
Yep.
And by the way, that would also include churches in Monona.
Yes,
Right.
yes, it would.
It's on a Friday morning, though, nobody's there.
No, we're talking, I'm
The
saying the
neighbors.
churches are not considered to be residential, and they do have the larger,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
right.
so if they're picking up at really early in the morning,
Even though
the
they're right
neighbors
in
that
the
live right
residential
next to
area,
the
right.
church.
Got
I
it.
think they're living next to a church because it's nice and quiet. Sometimes discover otherwise.
Yeah, Dan, when it comes to these multifamily homes with dumpsters,
Mm-hmm.
I found that there is often not as much compliance as there would be with residential.
That's
And,
a,
and if the recycling dumpster is full of non-recyclable material, what happens to that dumpster of material?
so if there is a positive in that, the positive is if it's a recycled dumpster, when it gets dumped, it gets sorted. The problem is if it's recyclables or things that are banned from the landfill in the solid waste dumpster, that's the bigger concern. Because that doesn't get sorted, that just goes right to the landfill. So the nice thing about at least the Pelletier trucks, I'm not sure if Advanced Disposal has the technology or GFL. If they have the modern equipment, they have cameras. They have cameras on the truck. But that's part of the inspection program the DNR wants us to do now. We don't have the staff to go and do every business in Monona, but it'll be spot checks,
Mhm.
and they don't have a number that we have to check, but I'm thinking we're gonna start out somewhere between 6 and 12 a quarter, that we're gonna go and inspect. We'll see what happens. The next item we're gonna talk about kind of covers that.
Yeah, okay.
Anybody else? Any questions for Dan?
Sorry, I just have another one, and maybe you can answer that, and if not, I'll Google it, but is there, I've always been a little bit, perplexed as to why they don't allow yard waste in the landfill. Is it just purely,
Methane.
It takes up valuable space for one.
okay, I was gonna say, is it just a space issue?
And it's something that can be composted and reused.
Yeah.
So, I believe now the landfill is accepting once again because they have a contract with Purple Cow. I heard something about that today.
But it's probably kept separately.
It is.
Because the
It's on the
organic
backside.
material really
Right. Yes.
throws off a lot of
Yep.
really harmful methane.
Yep.
Yeah, so,
Yeah,
Yeah, I was just thinking that it's also another organic that breaks down fairly pretty easily, so.
yeah, but.
they want to
I know
reuse that
this.
though.
So in a landfill where there's inorganic digestion.
Right.
Or anaerobic,
Anaerobic.
anaerobic, there you go. No air digestion, and the methane is really, really a bad thing. But if it's out in your garden breaking down,
Right.
there's no methane release there.
Anyone else?
I had a question about enforcement of recycling. I know that the random spot checks, that's great. And for those larger units, they can choose whatever hauler they wish to.
Yes.
Okay. I was just thinking of, the requirement to provide materials to the folks living in those units, and Pelletier has plenty of those, but, yeah, okay.
That'll be one thing that the DNR kind of hit home with on the inspection. We'll have to follow up on that as staff to make sure that they are educating
Yeah.
their tenants. I have downloaded, there's got to be about 15 to 20 template brochures on the DNR website, so I have them all. We'll help them out on that,
Yeah.
so.
Anyone else? All right, moving on to the next item, consideration of resolution 24-4-2705, adopting a recycling compliance assurance plan, also put forth by the Public Works Director.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is the, I guess, the inspection and action component of inspecting whether it's residential carts and business dumpsters. Like I said, in my time here, 13 years now, I've only had to do this once. My previous stop, I did write the compliance assurance plan years ago for them. I had it in place here. The DNR would like to see it adopted, so that's why you have it in front of you as a resolution. It's not part of the code. I have not come across any codes in Wisconsin where this is part of an ordinance, but it's part of an accepted process by either the village boards or the city councils. So it provides a guideline for us. 3 problems are stated. Any property in the city found to have no methods for recycling in place. And this is the one that I followed up on with this large complex. So they had it in place, then they stopped providing it. And with support from the DNR, we contacted them, and they, by state statutes, had to get that program going again. And they did, and there's been no problem since. Another one is the problem, recyclables found in trash. The compliance strategy, we're relying on the route driver to help with that. If they leave recycling education, they would notify us. We would also make an attempt to contact that property owner and help educate. If a second occurrence happens within a 12-month period, we will make contact again, and depending on severity, a citation might be issued according to our general penalty. Likewise, if trash is found in recyclables, there again, that impacts us because it increases our processing rate, our contamination rate. We want to reduce that. So that's why keeping trash out of the recyclables is important to us. Same follow-up strategy there. Within a 12-month period, we'll make contact again. Written letter, state statute, city ordinances, and I think anything related to a citation is going to depend on the situation we find. It's not our goal to cite, but if it's turning into a habitual thing and the things that are being, let's say, thrown into a landfill, like car batteries or antifreeze and things like that, I think we would follow advice of the DNR on how we approach that. So, this is the compliance assurance plan that I'm also asking your approval on for us to follow as recommended by the DNR. So.
Questions, anyone? Teresa?
I have a question regarding the second point, the second problem cited. Recyclables found in the trash, and the strategy is that the route driver would perhaps notice this problem and then leave behind educational materials.
Yeah.
So the Pelletary drivers are prepared to hop out of the truck, grab a flyer, go up to the house?
That's part of what they committed to.
Oh, okay.
That is in the DNR template, and this is another one that I searched in depth across Wisconsin, and what I have listed here is in essence the same as what other municipalities across the state
Sure.
have put in place. The cameras on the trucks is a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes their job easier, and it helps identify a problem quicker. But this is one of the items that Pelletary sells itself on. They do inform us. It's been outstanding, the level of communication and response with Pelletary.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't know, I can't say enough good things about having them right here in Monona with
Yeah.
us, so.
So once the recyclable materials go to the
the MRF.
facilities,
Yep.
I know that there are sensors that identify the different types of waste streams and sort of shoot the item on the conveyor belt off to the
Yep.
route it needs to take. I'm imagining similar technology on the truck itself that's identifying whether it's a recyclable item or not? Or maybe it's just not that
I'm not
fancy.
sure on that.
Okay.
I don't believe so. But I do know that Pelletary, if you all want to go and check out their recycling facility just outside of Monona here, they welcome you.
Mhm.
It's fascinating. They have the latest technology in this separation. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I was also just wondering, first of all, that's amazing. That's wonderful that the driver is prepared to pop out and assist with some residential education. I was also just thinking if there are things that the Sustainability Committee volunteers can do, be happy to, if you can think of anything, just not on the spot, but as time goes on, you know, if there's something that
Sure,
can be done. Just
absolutely.
Are you done?
Sorry, I am.
Anyone else? Anyone else have questions for Dan? Okay,
Thank
well,
you.
thank you, Dan.
Yep.
We'll see you back in a couple of weeks.
Yep.
Moving on to reports. Any updates on DEI efforts? Neil, did you have something, or?
Just certainly, I guess, we'll steal.
No, you may go ahead and give a report.
Just have bet that the DEI committee's working on their final report to present to council. I met with John, the chair, today, just to kind of review and provide some feedback on some of the items that they've got. I think there's a couple things they're going to maybe add and tweak a little bit, and bring it back to the committee for a final review and discussion, and hopefully that'll be coming to council here within the next meeting or two.
Anyone else have anything to share? Any updates on sustainability efforts? Doug?
A week from today, the Parks Department is doing a new approach to get people to clean up the parks with a trash contest, if you will. People go out, they collect, bring it back, weigh it, and there are, I think, 3 different categories that you can win a $100 gift card for picking up trash in the parks.
So I think people can register on the city website. You can register as an individual or a group. You show up at noon, you sign in, the bell goes off, you have an hour to collect as much as you can. Bring it back, put it on the scale. The one who collects the most wins a prize.
And I guess there's no school that day, right?
Correct. It's a
Thank you, so.
no-school day. Mhm.
Anyone else have anything on sustainability? Then we will move to committee reports. Alder Holmquist.
No report.
Alder Moore. No report. Alder Wood.
No report.
Alder Rademacher.
No report.
Alder Bernstein.
No report.
Actually, I guess I should. Sorry, this isn't really a committee report, but I sat in last week on a meeting with several of our department heads and the DOT Stoughton Road team. So, they're sort of doing outreach. They're, at an intermediate stage in the planning of it, and have a number of different ideas for how the highway would be treated, in particular in Winona.
When are they thinking that construction's actually gonna start? Do they
I don't
even have
know.
a date about that?
No, this is just the study, I guess, that will come up with a recommended plan. Funding, I have not heard anything about funding for it. It's obviously, it's gonna be a really expensive project, so.
It seems they've been talking about it forever.
Well, they did start talking about it back around 2004, 2005, and then that project got killed, I think, in the Walker administration. Put on hold, so they stopped doing any planning, and then they restarted it 2 years ago or so,
Okay.
something like that. So, yes, it has been talked about for a long time. And there have been spot improvements, but it's, it's got 3 of the top accident intersections for numbers and for severity are on Stoughton Road, and they're Buckeye, Flom, and Broadway. So,
Alder Rademacher.
Yeah, I should also mention something with sustainability. It's the middle of April. In a couple of weeks, people are going to be hauling out those No Mow May signs from their winter hibernation and proudly displaying them in the front yards. Just a reminder that the idea behind No Mow May is that if you have in your yard, if you have little flowers, violets, dandelions, clovers, scilla, whatever it might be, flowering, that you just want to let those grow a little longer so that the pollinators have something to munch on and feed themselves when they're coming out of hibernation. But if you really have worked very hard at getting those flowers out of your lawn, and you really love the look of just a green-only turf grass, then that really isn't for you. No mow May just isn't the thing that you may want to do, and that's perfectly okay. Just sort of wanted to clarify that it's not all about long turf grass. It's really just about flowers. And as a lot of people are already out in the yard and really enjoying getting outside and everything. In the next weeks, I'll be talking a little bit more about strategies for reducing mowing all summer long, and maybe slowly trading in turf grass for lawns that flower and require less maintenance. So.
And Alder Kula, do you have a committee report?
Nope, I've got no report.
Okay, Chief McMullen.
Well, good evening again. Just wanted to hang out and talk at this space about, I did a much larger monthly report than I normally do. Added a whole bunch of data that's now accessible off of our reporting system. If you see something in the report that you don't understand, based on acronyms or names that you may not be familiar with, I'm happy to answer those questions. Just send me an email, I'm happy to clarify it. But I wanted to add some more data so you can see exactly what we're doing on a daily basis. It produces a lot of really fancy graphs and lots of data there. I think my report's 37 pages long this month. But if there's something on there you don't understand or have a question about, I'm happy to answer that. Just send me an email and I'll clarify and try and clear it up in the next month's report to make it more understandable for everybody. I also want to put a shout out to my volunteers. They've been doing a fabulous job. Our full-time staff, we've been short-staffed the entire year so far. Everybody has stepped up, which has been fantastic. A lot of work on everybody's part. between inspections and calls for service and just being short, it's been difficult for everybody to keep up, but so far we've not only managed but maintained. And we have 6 new volunteers coming on board May 7th, 4 of which are fully qualified, 2 of which we'll send to fire school. And the hiring process for our full-time staff went well. We'll be doing a candidate day on April 24th, and then pushing a couple of really good candidates up to PFC to hopefully have them hired and in place by the middle of May. Other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions, and I also want to give a final shout out to our police officer friends over in Monona PD. They've been doing a fabulous job. They help us out a lot, especially because we're short-staffed, so they've been doing a great job with us out in the field.
Thank you. Chief Cheney, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you, Jerry, for the kudos. The same goes to you. And I've been listening into the meeting, so in terms of trash pickup and the ordinance, I will tell you that we do get complaints at like 6:59 a.m. level complaints. We've also have assigned our wonderful community relations officer to do some conflict resolution and some mediation between property owners and homeowners, so commercial and non-commercial, in terms of the noise and time of day and the backup sounds of the trucks that they make with their sensor beepers or indicators, I should say, the backup indicators. So this is just something to consider, and I'm glad that that was raised about the churches, because that has been, not that the church is the issue, but that has been the source of some of the complaints as well, that we're working with the church and residents about, more than one church, and residents about. For those of you who may not be familiar, I know the mayor is, I know our city administrator is, but I didn't get around to all of you. Please know that your officers are doing well, but they were directly involved in the town of Albion incident that occurred last week in the county. Our sort of first reliable backup is McFarland PD, and we are to them. And McFarland Police actually were the ones that engaged in the vehicle pursuit originally with the suspect and were fired upon. Your officers responded to their aid and actually were one of the first officers on scene in the town of Albion, right behind the county and McFarland PD and the State Patrol. And actually I received word yesterday that one of our officers is being nominated for Act of Valor. He was one of the first persons to enter the home to rescue the family. So we are a mighty small bunch of officers that do good work every day. You hear me brag about them. You all, I know, brag about them. I've heard you all brag about them, but a lot of attention, rightfully so, has been given at the county level to talk about how horrific and how tragic that event is, but I wanted to recognize the work that your officers played in that role as well as trying to resuscitate and save the 13-year-old. One of your officers was actively performing CPR. So any questions that you may have on any recent events, any questions about activities or events in the future, please reach out. Oh, I did want to talk about drug take-back, since we were talking about needles and prescription drugs. April 27th, which is the best day of the year. It's also my birthday, but it's also drug take-back day for the state. And we typically partner with the pharmacy shop on that day, but also the sort of permanent, semi-permanent drug take-back facility that's closest to Monona is the Cottage Grove Walgreens in Cottage Grove and Atwood or Monona Drive, whichever you'd like to consider that. So please keep that in mind, and they do take needles as well. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Aline?
Just a little assessment update. They, as you guys all know, did try a little something new this year. It didn't work out how they intended. So the AI portion of their assessment scheduling for open book, they removed the video, so the process is a lot more streamlined now, and people shouldn't have an issue getting in there. if they do, please give me a call and I can assist anyone in getting an appointment. I'll help you over the phone, you can come into my office and we'll do it on my laptop. So if anyone has issues, please send them my way and I'll help anyone and everyone.
And the link is on the homepage of the website too, right?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I think it was a very long week for Lean.
We're working through it though, so, and they've been really good and receptive to everything I've asked for, and they've done it quickly as well, so.
That's great.
That's
If
good
you guys
to
have any
know.
opinions going forward too, please let me know so I can work with them to make sure it's smooth going forward.
That's good.
Yeah, that's it for me.
Neil?
I'll just make a couple quick updates. Madison Metro contract, Attorney Cole continues to work with City of Madison legal representation to kind of resolve a couple of issues, I think primarily related to indemnification. So once that gets resolved at the attorney level, we'll be bringing that contract forward at that point. But we were hoping for it being for this meeting, but attorney was clearly not satisfied with the language to date, so he continues to work with the City of Madison on that information. Want to make sure Alders knew we're having bringing the ad hoc public safety committee together on this Wednesday at 4 p.m. the 17th here in this room, as well as on Zoom. We're just going to be providing a brief update on the civic campus planning. So we've gotten essentially kind of just an update in terms of the two primary concepts that they're taking a look at, as well as the overall project management that we're looking at, models that we're looking at this point, just to get some initial feedback. There will be no recommendations made at the meeting, but it will be just simply providing an update if anyone is interested. That meeting will also be recorded, so if you can't make that particular meeting, it will be available to view after that.
Can you say the date one more time? Date and time.
Yep, this 17th at 4 p.m. here in this room and also on Zoom.
Would somebody be so kind as to send that in an email to the Alders?
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you. Or if it's on the homepage of the website, that's fine too.
We'll send an email to make sure. Just wanted to make a note, both chiefs, I think we've still got them all done, we'll be meeting with them hopefully later this month. Actually, a conversation started related to the update of our emergency operations plan at the city. Actually, it's a conversation that actually started last fall with a joint meeting with our Dane County Emergency Management representatives. It's just due for a kind of an update, not in terms of, certainly in terms of communication, individual contact information, updating that, but also just kind of some of the specific procedures and things to be doing that we just want to make sure that that's updated and current. We're hopefully going to sit down and meet as a staff here sometime here in April with the goal of having an updated plan available sometime later this summer. So watch for more information on that. And then last one, partially and thanks to Alder Wood's comments at Finance and Personnel about increasing approval levels for financing. Staff is actually going to be getting together, all department heads this coming Friday, to review a series of different policies to kind of take a look at it and recommend some potential updates for consideration by this council. So everything ranging from some of those purchasing levels, some of the planning and zoning approvals that we've talked about in terms of maybe shifting some of those to a staffing level. There's enough things that have come up in conversation that we figured we just needed to kind of get together as a staff and kind of come up with a list and maybe suggest some priorities for those for consideration. So as soon as we have those, we will start bringing those forward to this body for consideration. And that's it, Mayor.
Neil, would you mind just saying a few words about the work you've been doing with short-term rentals?
Oh, absolutely. We are essentially, at this point, we are issuing a kind of a last chance letter, I guess, so to speak, in terms of doing that. We have a deadline of May 15th to have the applications in for the July 1 season that we're looking at. Director Plowman just ran a report this morning. Don't quote me exactly on these numbers, but I think it's pretty close. I think we have about, I think we have 23 applications in-house that we have received. We have about 43 facilities identified, so we're waiting for those last 20, hopefully to be getting their materials in here in the next couple of weeks. also kind of spent some time trying to identify kind of a workflow chart. Kind of the most difficult thing we've been dealing with is trying to coordinate all the inspections between, obviously, we have our building inspection, we have our fire inspection, and we also have the county health inspection. So just kind of figuring out, logistically how those three things work together. We are proceeding and moving forward. I think majority of those applications that are in are fairly complete. We have a few things to send back to request a couple of follow-ups on some of those that we've received. There are a couple of them that we have identified zoning violations based on the application materials that are provided. So we'll actually be doing some enforcement back on those because they've essentially sent some information in on that. Which again, that wasn't actually necessarily part of our initial flow chart. So that kind of derails those folks into another process that we need to take a look at. So at this point, we're on schedule for, again, notifying them, reminding them of the May 15th deadline for the July 1 to go in. We believe this could put us in a position to issue citations really as on July 1 if they are advertised and have not submitted any materials to the city. So we could be issuing enforcement actions as early as July 1.
And Neil, I know that, I've received a couple questions about short-term rentals, and is it safe to say that after July 1, if a neighbor wants to know, like if there's a short-term rental and a neighbor wants to know what date range did that short-term rental owner choose for their rental period, after July 1, I'm assuming that the concerned person could call the city hall and
Yeah, absolutely.
know that information.
Absolutely. Yep.
And then they could and then they could be prepared to have renters in their neighborhood.
Correct.
Mhm.
I just want to remind you all about the reorganization meeting tomorrow night at 5:30. We'll be meeting in the conference room at City Hall. Probably take 20 minutes to a half hour, and then we are going to Buck and Honey's afterwards, where we weren't able to we found out late last week that we could not get the separate room in the basement, so they are putting aside an area for us near the high top tables in the bar areas. But we will have appetizers, and I think Leah said that if anybody wanted dinner,
We'll certainly order off menu, absolutely.
could order off the menu as well, so. And spouses and significant others are welcome as well. I think that's everything I had. So there are no appointments tonight. I'll have a lot of appointments tomorrow. I think Leah sent out the agenda this afternoon. And I'll be sending your appointments to you, your committee appointments sometime tomorrow. So with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
Aline, would you
I was
like?
last night.